this we will talk about, that is the how reinstate the relationship. Very interestingly, this topic is there, that is in the at the workplace many times it becomes that there are so many issues which are sometimes they are favorable, sometimes they are unfavorable also. And if there are the unfavorable situations, and then how that interpersonal dynamics that gets affected, and if it is getting affected, then how we can take the necessary actions, the corrective actions. So, therefore, we can develop that particular relationship. This particular topic that we will talk about, that is the how reinstate the relationship. Now, we will find out the first and foremost very important point, that is the common reasons for the relationship building. That is at workplace why people they are developing their particular relationships. Then there are certain intriguing quotes, understanding relationship building approaches, 3-factor theory of love, Sternberg's triangular theory of love, equity theory, social exchange theory. Then understanding the relationship dissolution, factors leading to relationship problems, and ways to rebuild the breaking relationships. And there in here we will find, that is the from the content itself you can understand, that is the how relationship building approaches we can learn at the workplace. Because if we do not have the knowledge, that is the how at the workplace a professional relationship that has to be developed, then there might be the that we will not be able to create a team. To create a team environment, we are required to develop this particular approach. Then there are certain reasons, because of there is a dissolution of the relationship at the workplace, and then how that particular situation that creating the relationship problems that we will discuss. And then we will discuss about ways to rebuild the breaking relationship, how we can develop that breaking relationship into converting the relationship into the reinstating the relationship. Now, whenever we are talking of the factors of the interpersonal attraction, it is the propinquity effect. What is the propinquity effect? It is the tendency for people to form friendships or the romantic relationship with those whom they encounter often, forming a bond between the subject and the friend. And therefore, in that case, it becomes very important. That is, whenever we are talking about the personalities, different personalities. So, there are the certain personalities. What they do whenever they come across to different people, they get fall into that developing the friendships. Now, further we will discuss that at the workplace, whether developing the friendship or this type of the relationship, whether it is correct or not, and then how a professional relationship is different than a personal relationship. And then naturally, but when they are having this type of tendency in the personality, so they will forming a bond between the subject and the friend. So, they will not only develop a bond only for the friendship, but they will also develop a work and cohesiveness of the working together. And if they develop that cohesiveness of the working together, then definitely that will be called the propinquity effect. Some of the employees, they are having the similarity effect. It is a strong predictor of attraction in both friendships and romantic relationship is there. So, some people they will develop the friendship, some people will develop the romantic, but in the similarity effect you will find they are developing a predictor of attraction in the both friendship and romantic relationship is there. There is another factor that is called the reciprocal liking. Reciprocal liking is liking someone who likes us in return, is one of the prime determinants of interpersonal attraction that will only have an influence if you like yourself in the first place. So therefore, whenever we are liking ourselves, we are having the same liking for the other, and it determines, that is the developing the liking, and it is called the determinants of the interpersonal attraction. In this interpersonal attraction, the person will be always looking forward towards the same relationship and affection what he has for oneself. Will only have an influence if you like yourself in the first place. But the condition is this for the reciprocal liking, that is, the way I like myself, I will like to yourself also. So therefore, in that, if this type of the influence is there, then that will call the reciprocal liking. The effects of physical attractiveness on liking. Genetically, we are designed to have certain preferences in through our evolution. So naturally, there are the certain effects of the genetically we are having, and therefore we are having that particular type of evolution. And therefore, in that case, it will be always there will be the effect of physical attractiveness, or the liking is also there. That is why the people also having this type of the liking. So these are the factors which affect the relationships. And relationship building, that is there are three factors are very important. Now one factor, please understand, that is the relationship building is there. The another factor which we are talking about, that is the relationship termination. So therefore, in that case, it becomes very important, that is the what type of the relationship which we are developing. If we are making the relationship building, then in relationship building and in the relationship termination, we have to understand what are the different factors which are affecting an activity as activities which are influencing right from the relationship building to relationship termination. Now in relationship building, it becomes reconstruct the broken relationship. So we can also find out, that is in this chapter, that is the how we can reconstruct the broken relationship. Then intrapersonal relationship is there, that is the how a person oneself, it is not interpersonal, it is intrapersonal, and therefore the person himself is developing the relationship or liking for himself. Then relationship maintenance. If we fail into the relationship maintenance, then there will be the relationship termination will be there. So then interpersonal relationship, the first we will go by understanding of relationship building. Due to the subjective nature of relationship building approaches, multiple theories of relationship building have been proposed by the various theorists. For example, Nape's model, Sternberg's triangular theory, social exchange theory, social identity theory, drive theory, and the attribution theory. Few of the applied theories we will be discussing here. There are the three factor theory of love. First is, this theory states that love is dependent on three important factors: a state of physiological arousal, an appropriate label for that arousal, cultural influence, and appropriate love object. Thus, love is a cognitive level that is having a physiological cause when provided with an appropriate object. This can be clarified with the next supportive research. Dutton and Aaron in 1974 arranged for men to be interviewed by an attractive female either on a high suspension bridge or a low bridge. The high arousal condition led to greater attraction, presumably because the men misattributed the arousal they felt as sexual attraction rather than the fear. Sternberg's the triangular theory of love. The triangular theory of love holds that love can be understood in terms of three components that together can be viewed as forming the vertex of the triangle. The triangle is used as a metaphor rather than as a strict geometric model. These three components are intimacy. Now you see that whenever there is a relationship, then the first and foremost the influence is, that is the factor which is influencing, and that is the intimacy is there. Intimacy refers to the feeling of closeness. This is how you are feeling the closeness, connectedness, and boundedness in the loving relationships. It thus includes within its purview those feelings that give rise essentially to the experience of a warmth in a loving relationship is there. Second is the passion, third is the decision commitment. Now, when we talk about the passion refers to the drives that lead to romance, physical attraction, sexual consummation and related phenomena in loving relationships. The passion component includes within its purview those sources of motivational and other forms of arousal that lead to the experience of passion in a loving relationship. Decision commitment refers in the short term to the decision that one loves a certain other, in the long term to one's commitment to maintain that love. These two aspects of the decision and commitment component do not necessarily go together. We have to also understand that is whenever we are talking about a particular component, those components how they are going to work. So, many times there is one component which is influencing the other, but sometimes it is the required the combination of the both the components and that they are making the joint influence over the object. In that one decides to love someone without being committed to the love in the long term, that is the impact, or one can be committed to a relationship without acknowledging that one loves the other person in the relationship is there. And therefore, many times we see that is called the one-sided affect commitment is there. In the Sternberg's model, intimacy, passion and commitment are the warmth, hot and cold vertices of Sternberg's love triangle. Alone and in combination, they give rise to the 8 possible kinds of love relationships. Number 1 is no love. It is absence of all the 3 components, that is there is no intimacy, passion and commitment. Large majority of our relationships, that is the casual interactions are there, and there is nothing like the starting of the relationship is the intimacy, passion and commitment. Type 2 is the liking. There is a feeling experience in true friendships. Liking includes such thing as a closeness and warmth, but not the intense feeling of passion. Unlike passion, intimacy can be a solely platonic feeling. It is that sense of familiarity and friendship that comes with the meeting someone you really get on with. Someone you can be your true self around. It is certainly a great component to have in romantic relationship with, but not its own. Therefore, many times that is the feelings experienced in the true friendship, that is the solely platonic feeling is there, and there it means that there is a familiarity and friendship that is to be considered. So, when we are without passion or commitment, it is more likely to result in friendship, or as the triangular theory of love puts it, liking. So, therefore, it is not necessarily that is it is the any love or romantic relationship, but it can be the liking relationship is there. Then infatuation, love at first sight. Passion is a love component that many of us are familiar with. It is responsible for the widely beating heart, the flip-flops in the stomach, that feeling of love at first sight. Of course, when it is just passion alone, there is none of the true knowing that comes with the intimacy or the steadfastness of the commitment. So, what you end up with is less nonsense than some other types of love. The best description for passion on its own is thus the infatuations. 10th grader in love with a beautiful 12th grade girl, but would not ask her out, and therefore in that case we will say that is the infatuation situation is there. Commitment without intimacy or passion is there. Commitment is the active steps taken to preserve a relationship. It is an essential part of any lasting love, but when devoid of intimacy and passion, it is a part that can feel more like a duty than a romantic choice. Normally, we see this type of examples, that where the people are working together, but it is because of the commitment and there is no intimacy, and then there is no passion is there. But yes, they have to work together, and therefore in that case it is for the even for the long years they will be working together, and relationship will be continue for long years because there is a commitment. So therefore, many times we will find that there is a relationship without intimacy and passion itself, and the reason is nothing then other than commitment. They used to be passionate, but it died out. Often a long-term relationship that has lost all passion and intimacy will hover in this empty love stage before ending. But as Sternberg points out, love can begin here too. In an arranged marriage, for instance, the commitment often comes first. Example, 30-year-old marriage together yet alone. And therefore, in that case you will find that is the even after the 30 years that is the experience of marriage, and then even there are the because of there is no intimacy and passion, but commitment is there. So, person may carry the marriage life for the more 30 and more than 30 years, because there is a fulfillment sense of the commitment is there. Fatuous love's commitment plus passion, the emotional core is missing, which is necessary to sustain the intimacy. When you combine the fire of passionate infatuation and the bonds of commitment, but do not intimately like who the other person is, you get fatuous love. Worldwide celebrity marriages and the Quickie Vegas wedding can often be described as fatuous love, as can any ardent committed connection, but without much substance behind it. And therefore, the emotional core is missing in that many times to sustain the intimacy. And whenever there is no intimacy and you combine the fire of passionate infatuation and the bonds of commitment, but don't immediately like who the other person is, you get fatuous love. This type of love rarely works. The lack of intimacy means that when passion mellows, such relationships are often difficult to sustain, and also depending on the level of commitment involved, tricky to resolve. An example is whirlwind marriages, this type of the importance. The romantic love is that is the intimacy and passion. More than infatuations, the liking with the added excitement of the physical attraction, but without commitment. In romantic love, the intimacy component brings a meeting of minds, while the passion component means that there is a physical attraction too, and therefore many times you will find that it is the without commitment. A glorious as this combination is, the lack of commitment means that the romantic love is very much focused on the now rather than the future. This means it is often seen in the giddy early phases of romance. That time when you are learning all about each other and loving what you discover, but before your lives and royalties are fully merged. With the addition of commitment, this can be blossomed into the consummate love. Without it, it is more likely to be the stuff of the tempestuous romance novels. Example is the summer affair. And therefore, in that case, if this type of the summer affair is there, then there will be no commitment and there will be only the intimacy and passion. The companionate love, that is the intimacy plus commitment but no passion. It is a long-term friendship. At the other end of the drama scale to romantic love is it is a companionate love. When combined, commitment and intimacy make powerful emotional bonds, meaning that the companionate connection is stronger than simple friendship. However, the lack of passion, as I mentioned, because here is no passion, means that this is often quite a chase comfortable arrangement, the sort of things that might happen after years of familiarity. According to Sternberg, this is not a death knell for love. In fact, this mellow phase is a common part of relationship progression. Example, 80 years old couples, and therefore in that case you will find that it is a beautiful example of 80 years old couple about the intimacy plus commitment is there. In this type 8 last, consummate love, also known as the complete love, when all three elements of the triangle come together in a relationship, and this is difficult but not impossible to achieve. So, even the theorists, they have said that is this type of love, that is including the intimacy, passion and commitment, it is difficult but not impossible. So, example, only very special relationship get here, and therefore in that case all three components are there, and then it will be long lasting. Now, when we are going to the managerial theories for these interpersonal relationships, people are happiest in relationships in which the rewards and costs that a person experiences and the contributions that they make to their relationship are roughly equal to the rewards. costs and contributions of the other person. And therefore, in that case, it becomes very important, that is the in that relationship if there is rewards and costs are involved, and when there is a equal ROI. Hayfield et al. 1972 interviewed over 500 students about equity in their relationships, and 3 months later the inequitable relationships were more likely to have ended. And therefore, whenever we are talking about the rewards and costs, so that a person expenses, and that is becoming the important. Otherwise, then if there is no proper rewards and costs, there is no equity, rather than that it will be having the inequitable. So, inequitable relationship will be more likely to have ended. The behavioral ways employees try to reduce their perceptions of inequity, and therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the how you can match that particular inequity. To changing input levels to match the outcomes, if someone believes he or she is not pulling their weight and does not deserve the wage they are being paid. Here I would like to mention, that is the whenever we are talking about the equity, and then in this equity pro forma we have to see someone that is the daily wages, right, that is the how they have been paid. There can be the overpayment in equity, right, or there can be the underpayment inequity is there. So, when there is a overpayment or the underpayment equity is there, then they have the overpayment equality, the employee may become motivated to ask their supervisor for more input to match outcome, because they are overpayment. Someone feeling the underpayment inequity may also lower their inputs to make the things feel more even. So, therefore, because they are low, they feel that they are underpayment, so they will reduce their efforts. Changing or attempting to change outcomes to match inputs. An employee may do this by attempting to ask for a raise or other change in outcomes that the employer could provide. Usually, this change is attempted when an employee feels underpaid for the work they are doing. Another action that the employee might take to reduce their feelings of inequality for the underpayment would be stealing. Stealing is a common occurrence in jobs where the employees feel like they are being underpaid. By stealing from their employer, the employees feel like they are increasing their outcomes and evening the score by making this particular equality. So, therefore, it is becomes very important that we whenever we are talking about, that is the how their perceptions of the employees, they should bring, that is the equality. If there is no equity and there is inequity, then this type of the incidences that will become very common, whether it is the overpayment or whether it is the underpayment. And in case of the overpayment, they will like to feel motivated and to do more work to justify their payment. In underpayment, they will withdraw and they will say that is earning the score by bringing the equity. A third behavioral way to deal with the inequality is to persuade the comparison and the co-workers, mainly to change their inputs, and this is affecting the interpersonal relationship. So, whenever they are making the comparison with the others co-workers to change their inputs, and to reference the above example of extra hours overtime, the employees could try to convince their co-workers to stay longer at work, very unlikely. The employee would then feel more equal because everyone is working the same amount of hours for the same pay. The last behavior is the withdrawing, which can mean quitting the job. Withdrawing can also be merely showing up to work and doing very little less than the other co-workers. So, therefore, when we want to bring the equity, it should be like this. So, when we talk about the work level, so that will be low, medium and high. Similarly, when we talk about the compensation, that is the low, medium and high. So, when we talk about that is the to have a good working environment and having the employees, they should not compare with others, otherwise that will affect their relationship, and because the people will try to compare, that is the how much my colleague is getting, that will naturally affect, compensation system will affect. So, therefore, if it is here low and low, so then it is the equity is there. When it is here, it is the medium and medium, the equity is here, and when this is high, that is the high work performance and the high wages, then in that case the equity will be there. So, this equity will be there, but when there is a low wages and high work performance is there, then definitely in that case it is the underpaid. But when there is the high wages and low work, this will be overpaid. So, here we have, and this will be the moderate. So, therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the whenever we are talking about the equity, concept of equity, then in that case the when you want, that is your employees, good employees, they should not leave, and then here it will be important, that is the how they are going to affect this particular relationship, and this relationship will be, that is the by work showing up to work and doing very little less than the other co-workers. So, if you want, that is your employee should not quit the job, then in that case we have to follow the principle of equity, otherwise it will affect the relationship among those particular employees at the workplace. The another theory is the social exchange theory. The social exchange theory suggests that how people feel about their relationships depends on their perception of the rewards and cost of the relationship, the kind of relationship they deserve, their chances of having a better relationship with someone else. So, real life examples are, that is, an employee who thinks his hard work is not being acknowledged in the office may switch off job, that we see many times. That is one that is more rewarding, where he gets the same benefits at the lesser efforts. A bachelorette, while choosing a prospective groom for the several alternatives, may settle for one who is caring, fun and handsome, things she considers as reward, while accepting the fact that he is not as rich as the others is there, and a potential risk is in the relationship is there. Roosevelt in 1983 found that costs are only calculated after the honeymoon phase. So, Simpson et al. 1990 found that participants who were dating rated members of the opposite sex as less attractive, demonstrating that they close themselves off from the attractive alternatives. So, therefore, in that case it is the choice which is based on the as compared to the unachievable to achievables up to certain extent. A lead stage model, understanding of the relationship dissolution, is a process taking place over a period of time. Dissatisfaction problem is recognized, exposure problems identified and brought into the open, negotiation, discussion about the issue raised during the exposure stage, resolution attempts, both partners try to find ways of solving the problems, and the termination if the resolution attempts are unsuccessful. Research evidence is Lee studied over 100 paramarital romantic breakups and drew up the 5 stages. Those relationships that had been the strongest took the longest time to work through. The 5 stages of the dissolution is taken. So, therefore, in that case, that is whenever we have the dissolution of relationship, then it goes to the dissatisfactions, problem identification, that is exposure, discussing about that is how we can continue together, resolution attempts are there, and finally there is no need and therefore reason. So, no relationship is established with the thought that it will end with the hard care and grief. If the relationship is involving either dominance or passive approach of any one of the person's relationship, it will lead to the maladjustments caused by the dissimilarity among the couples. Sometimes the individuals in the relationship may feel lack of trust and may de-escalate, that is breaking up to see if the relationship endures change in one's life. Often including others in the personal debate by either one and listing support his or her side may offend the partners. Often both the partners are equally involved in the process of breaking the relationships. It may the need of the time for the both age in changes in one's lives are excessive is there. So, therefore, in that case, in spite of the playing the blame game, both partners that gives themselves dissatisfied feeling from existing relationship, and this that leads to the mutual withdrawal of supportiveness and affection. The last slide which I would like to take in this particular session is, that is then how to way to rebuild the breaking relationships. Communicate and express your emotions, listen to understand, not to reply, That is, we have to understand the other person's feeling. That is, as I mentioned, that is, first we have to get the understood, and then we can we have to understand others and then get to understood. Realize human errors, don't idolize partner, that is that he will never do the mistakes. 2 is a relation and 3 is a discussion. So, therefore, in that case it is better that both the parties they make their understandings. Assurance and trust building. Then the joint activities involving physical and emotional interaction, and the humor and the spending time together, right. Apologize, accept, regret and mend involve these emotions. Unconditional acceptance of the self and others, that is very important, that is unconditional, because whenever there is a condition is there, and as soon as the condition the condition is disappearing from the situation, right, the relationship is also getting disturbed. Nothing is more important than the self respect for you and the other person, and that is why everybody talks about, that is the how one can be having the interpersonal relationship, and it is the sharing of joy, sharing of emotions, understanding, listening, actually involved in the different activities, social activities, and as a result of which the relationship can be rebuilt. So, this is all about the interpersonal relationships, the causes of dissolution and how to rebuild the interpersonal relationship. Thank you.